Welcome in to the All-Star break. The Nuggets have made it on an 8-game winning streak, and we are talking all things Nuggets. Is Zeke Naji actually good? What should the rotation be? How high of a seed can the Nuggets get? And the most important question, will they go home with the other man, Larry O'Brien? Dan, play that romantic music. We are here on a chilly Thursday afternoon, but Ryan, as they say, the basketball is heating up inside. Mostly college basketball people say that, but it's heating up inside Ball Arena. Ryan, how are you, buddy? Welcome to another episode here. Blucifer Brothers. I am Kyle Poland, joined by Ryan. Now, Ryan, how are you?
I'm doing well. Basketball's over, though. I don't know why you're saying it's heating up. It stops for like a week. Nobody watches the All-Star game. Are you going to watch any of the All-Star game?
No. None of the All-Star game. I'll watch. There's no Nuggets in the 3-point contest or anything.
I mean, dunk contest maybe. Like
pretty bad group this year. And
Max McClung is in there, right?
I clearly do not support the NBA ification where fans just watch highlights and don't watch the full games. So on one hand, the NBA has never been more popular, and on the other hand, the ratings are terrible. But I do support consuming All-Star Weekend through social media.
100%.
Hey man, Dame Lillard lost his mind in the 3-point contest. Awesome. I'll go find it on Instagram. I'll find the clip. Chuck said something funny with the Jokic during us. Great, I'll find the clip. It's no problem. I feel like we're also going to miss out on the fact that Luka and Jokic don't get to just throw balls at each other and mess around the whole time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot he's not going to.
Yeah, so maybe Wemby will have to be Jokic's new foreign friend at the All-Star game. We'll see if he makes a new buddy out there. That's really all there is to that.
He's going to be so sad. He's just going to have to hang out with Julian Strawther all weekend.
He is not going to hang out with Julian Strawther. I'll tell you that. Nor should he, by the way. They're in different places in life. He should go to the Rising Stars game or whatever, make an appearance. But I thought it was interesting when they asked Jokic, how cool is it for Julian to get to showcase himself? He's like, he gets to showcase himself every night for the Nuggets. You could tell he was this fantasy team. That's where you really show who you are. It was so stupid to him.
It's just it's completely antithetical to what Nikola Jokic believes is good basketball. So
yeah. But we do have a good episode for you this week. We're sorry our Super Bowl 420 parlay didn't come through. We really thought we had some magic there, but you can't win them all. Congrats to the Eagles, I suppose. What a terrible game. And we don't need to recap it. There'll be plenty of time in the offseason to figure out the Broncos, figure out what moves they make, what the roster looks like. So we did give out first half Eagles, which I believe somebody on the podcast won some money on. So might have. We don't give out Dan's big balls bet of the week. Slightly smaller after the surgery, but
I was going to say we can't call it that anymore.
Yeah, well, it used to be the overwhelmingly large balls bet of the week, and honestly, that's part of why you got the surgery, because it's more catchy to just be big balls bet of the week. No, and no one else has ever used that before on any media or platform or anything. So it's also so original that it's cool in that way too. So we're going to have a good episode for you this week. We're going to go into the Nuggets All-Star break. It's kind of stupid in the NBA because when you come back, you're actually in the stretch run. There's less than 30 games left in the season. But it's a good demarcation point. The Nuggets obviously went in on about as good of a run as you can, winning 8 in a row. And before they'd lost that 3 in a row, I think they'd won 6 in a row, Ryan. So They've kind of cooked here, and they've gotten themselves back. They're one back of the Grizzlies heading in. They're a lot back of the Thunder. Um, and because we're cursed with being in their division, we still have to play them twice, despite having played them 3 freaking times already. It's awful. Or maybe it was only 2. That makes sense. I don't think he played people 5. And I don't think they were in our group for
No.
the thing. But the Nuggets probably have a good chance to get to the 2 if things play out okay. And barring the wheels just completely falling off the Oklahoma City Thunder. And the Nuggets sweeping a road back-to-back in Oklahoma City.
It would have to be an injury.
I don't think things are going to go well.
Them dropping 8 games to us in the next 25 would be something else.
It'd be a bummer. I think would be the correct term there. But Ryan, the Nuggets go in. They dropped over 130 points both times. We're missing Porter for both of these games versus the Blazers. Aaron Gordon didn't play in the last one. No Peyton Watson. No Russell Westbrook. It feels like this is a new morphing version of the Nuggets that kind of I think we were kind of on as far as like how they're going to play. I didn't foresee the starters leaning into the running as much as they have, with obviously Christian leading all guards in fast break points. And even with Westbrook out, it feels like they've even gotten faster rather than like slowed down, which is, I mean, an interesting thing and something that I think they've just made the decision that like we are going to try to get some easy points, play fast, do all of this stuff and put a lot of pressure on you. And I'm for it. It's looked pretty good out there. So same exact record as last year.
Let's pause.
How do you feel?
Pause there for a second though.
Yes.
Before I answer that, I want to talk a little bit about Christian, especially in Westbrook's absence, because I think one of the things that I noticed, especially last night, is he's like kind of getting in his bag a little bit differently than he used to. And I'm sort of wondering if that's a Russell influence, because they kind of like, he's a white man's Russell Westbrook, right? Like his thing is he plays hard. He's gonna be a hustle player. He's gonna get downhill. He's not a great shooter, but he can shoot it. And if he sees a couple go in, he's kind of dangerous on both ends, like to the point where you're like, all right, dude, stop shooting the ball, or he shoots and makes 3 out of 5 or something like that. Like, so I wonder if that's a little bit of influence from Russ, which is a great, unbelievable news for the Nuggets if it is. Obviously, Christian's always had that in his bag, but he's been so much more aggressive, particularly like when they sag off of him or he notices somebody is sagging off of him. He's just like, oh, I'll go at your chest. Like the odds of you being able to stay in front of me are pretty low.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously we have to be careful about saying similar games. Similar games at this point in their careers, Russell Westbrook and his MVP form would have fucked Christian Brown up every day of the goddamn week.
I'm saying
I got what your point was, but I wanted to make it clear for the listener so that there's
I think
no,
it was
like,
clear when I called
this.
him the white man's Russell Westbrook. Like, he's a downgraded version. He's nowhere near as good as whatever 2012 Russell Westbrook would have been. Like, he's but they play in a similar style in that they have a similar skill set and they have to rely on similar things. Russell Westbrook is probably still doing it on a higher level than Christian Brown is, but they have those same type of attributes that make them good at what they do.
Yeah, I think Christian just has figured out, like, I need to thrive in chaos. Like, I need it to be fast. If the whole defense is set and I am dribbling downhill, like he had that nice move where he crossed over and spun and pump faked. Like, that was a great moment. But let me tell you how many times I've seen Christian Brown break someone down in the half court. Like, I can probably count on it one time. So I
Well,
think he
but
like
the
realized what was going to make him successful, and he was like, "That's not going to take anything away from our team. I can still absolutely be that." I do agree with you. I think he's gotten more confident going downhill off the dribble handoff to where in the early part of the season we just couldn't use Christian in the dribble handoff. Teams were like, "Sure, dude, do whatever." And it felt like Christian was feeling pressure to shoot threes or to like prove that he could make them. And he's just kind of established, like you said, that he's not KCP. He is not going to always knock down wide open threes. Now, last night, he was in pretty good rhythm. But that's not, like you said, if he sees a few go down, he can feel pretty good about himself.
yeah.
But he's done a great work there. Where I think Russ should get a lot of credit is I think Russ raised the IQ of our guards. We talked about it a little bit last episode, but the quick re-entries back to Jokic, the different ways we're cutting, the way we're trying to prevent fronts, the way that we're like setting things up to try to be like, all right, like this is how you're going to defend us. This is what we're going to do to try to just like get yourself easy baskets, right? As opposed to, it did feel like last year there were some times where guys were like, we all watched you guys just run through the entire NBA with your two-man game. We'll just stand here and watch the two-man game. And while they can still get that, and obviously Murray had an insane night, and I'm sure he'll come up in the course of our Nuggets discussion here. So they can still do that, but it's just a lot of work. And I think Russ was like, he said it multiple times in postgame where he's like, I want to make it easier on him. It's not just easier for me because of him. It is that, but I want to make it easier on him. And I think now when you see Aaron Gordon with 7 assists, when you see Christian getting assists, when you see Pickett getting assists, I think a lot of guys have been like, all right, we can also try to use our creation and then find Jokic or find Murray or find people for easy shots to where I don't have to be aggressive with the idea of getting my own buckets. Like if I give Jokic anywhere near good post position, he is going to put this person in a closet and leave them there forever. So I think that's where I would give Russ a lot of credit. Maybe I'd give Russ credit because it was becoming very apparent that Christian was going to come off the bench before Russ got hurt. And so now Christian's like, I got to use this time to keep myself out there.
Well, but I
and I mean,
honestly don't
there is
know if
something to
either
that.
of them care. That I think is a great part about what Malone has said in post game. And I mean, of course he's gonna say that shit, right? Like, what else are you gonna say? But um, when he's talking about guys being selfless and thinking about the team before themselves, like I actually don't know if Russ or Christian care if they're in the starting lineup. I think that they know that they're going to get theirs, whether they're running the backup unit or if they're running with Jokic. Like, they're both good enough, I think, at this point. I think the confidence thing means more to Christian than it means to Russell. So I'd be tempted to have Russell coming off the bench, but it'd be a quick sub for me because I want Russell and Jokic playing together as much as possible. So it could be something where you see Russ come out of the game at 8 minutes and then come back in when Jamal comes out. Like, I'd be creative with the rotation in that way. Because, I'm not envious of this situation. Honestly, Malone hasn't ever really had this. Or he hasn't since the championship window has been open. Like, the starting lineup has always been pretty obvious, and I think this is not obvious, and it may take a little bit of not tinkering because we kind of know what each of them brings, but I guess I talked about it in the last episode. It could be completely matchup dependent too. I don't know.
I think now's as I think we're getting close to it, so I think now's as good of a time as any to talk with you about it. We know that you can maximum have a 9-man rotation in the playoffs, and usually that ninth guy, it's a very spot duty sort of a thing here, right? It's not. It's maybe not all the minutes that ninth guy would like. Um, And I think this will be a good way to kind of give some flowers to some guys who have stepped up um, in some minutes here. Um, so if we had to go through our 9-man rotation, I think the ones we don't need to discuss. This is assuming health, right? We're assuming going in the playoffs, everyone's healthy. I think Jokic, I think Murray, I think MPJ, I think Gordon, and I think Christian. I think those 5 are very obvious. Okay.
Russell is obvious too.
I think Russell has gotten to a place where he's obvious, right? I think also, and we'll see what he looks like when he comes back, but Peyton Watson is just such a Swiss Army knife and can help you in so many matchups and is really reliant, especially if you're going to use more of the Gordon at 5. That I
Hold
think
on
he's
though.
good in there.
Let's go in terms of confidence. So I agree with your 5, right? It's Jokic, Murray, Porter, Brown, Gordon are definitely the 5. And then I think it goes Russell. And then I actually think that it goes Julian Strother before Peyton Watson. And it's not necessarily that I like Peyton Watson is next on the list. He's firmly in that 8-man rotation. But I think we just have such a need for a shooter that Strother has to play. Like, the guy's been lacing threes. He has to play. And I've really enjoyed the way Malone has been staggering the younger guys with Jokic and allowing them to play with him. I mean, Pickett has gotten more. We should look at we could find the rotations, but Pickett has gotten more minutes with Jokic in the last, whatever, 8-game stretch than I bet he's ever had in his career. And I think it's part of the reason why he's looked better. Everybody looks good playing next to Nikola Jokic. Shocker. So I kind of think like giving Jokic the pile of shit to make him somewhat comfortable with in case we really need them in a playoff game where Jokic knows that they're not going to be in the wrong spot when he wants to throw him a no-look pass for a corner 3 from Jalen Pickett. Like, I think that's a positive. But I guess to go back to your question, I think that, do you disagree,
Well,
I guess?
let's pause here because I think you're correct in the 8 in the confidence level. I would have P-Watt over Strother. Just because we know what Malone likes. Malone likes you to not do stupid things on defense. And Julian Strother loves doing stupid things on defense. He made Malone call a
Julian
timeout.
Strother likes not trying on defense. Peyton Watson does do some stupid shit on defense, but it's over trying. They have the opposite
Well, and Watson's going to be on a good player. So, like, he's not all the rotation
going to look
stuff,
stupid.
Watson's not going to have to deal with as much as Strother. But I think you're right there. Here's my question. Has Zeke Naji played himself, in your mind, into a 9th? It's spot minutes. You think about a Memphis where they've got the 2 bigs. They've got Brandon Clark coming off. They've got, they've got some players coming off the bench. They've got some twin tower potential. And to where if you go small, we're a team that for some reason this year just can't get a rebound sometimes. Yeah.
I think
is there some matchups where you could see him being our 9th? Because I think he's the only option for a 9th.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, Pickett, but I don't think so.
No, we just don't need another guard. Like, Jamal's going to play so many minutes. So you're really looking at like that, you know, two guard, or you're looking at a forward. So I mean, it is Zeke or Dario Saric rose from his grave last night and played some minutes. I didn't even think, I figured he must be on death's door to just be getting DNSs or DNPs the way he's been catching them. But um, no, I don't know. It's the most it's the biggest hole on the roster. The fact that we're having to talk about Zeke Naji here. Uh, I'm
Well,
not
let's hold
excited.
on. What do you believe this Zeke Naji? Obviously, he's gotten a lot. You talk about someone who never got to play with Jokic. He
He
is
looks the
getting to play
same,
with
dude.
Jokic.
He looks the
I
same.
think he looks pretty spry on defense.
I don't
Um,
know.
and I think that
There was that
switchability
two
is really
games.
important in the playoffs. And I
There
think
were
the fact
those
that he's
two
quick
games where
is helpful.
he played really good defense on LeBron. And I was like, holy shit. Like, if Zeke Naji can do this, we're going to win 3 championships back to back. And then it just disappeared. Like, I don't know what it is with the guy, but sometimes he shoots the ball. Sometimes he's a great rebounder. Sometimes he plays defense, but there's no consistency. Like, we've been tricked by this before, so I'm just protecting my heart more than anything. Like, I agree with you that he is the next guy. We've seen DJ come in, and he's been effective. Honestly, he's rebounded. He's played decent defense. He's actually probably a better true rim protector. He's not a better defender, but in terms of true rim protection, he's better than Jokic is. Uh, and so, yes, I agree with you, but it
In
is
terms of
matchup
true rim
dependent.
protection, Jokic is barely in our top five. By the way, Zeke Naji is better at rim protection. Aaron
I'm
Gordon is
sure.
better at rim protection.
Yeah.
Then you got DeAndre, and then I don't think you can give it to Porter. You know,
Well, he's also Jokic is also eating everyone's mistakes at the rim, so that doesn't help the old statistical categories either. But I'm
oh, I
not.
just meant eye test wise. I don't mean
Oh yeah, yeah.
anything there. Um, but I think you're correct in terms of we have to acknowledge that Zeke Naji has had runs before where he's looked good. I don't think he's had this long of a run where he's looked good. But his other stints where he looked pretty good were all bench minutes, right? Like he was getting the DJ minutes,
Well,
right?
he's not going to start though.
No, and that's what I'm saying is we have to be careful of the bump. Now, I think he is a huge guy in terms of if a few things, like if the first two things go right, and he, hits some teammates, dapping him up, smacking him on the chest. Hey, let's go, baby. He's gonna be running through a wall and he's ready to go. And I think you're right that he has that like ability to just kind of be like, oh, I'm doing bad. I'm just gonna disappear so no one notices me. And that I won't be hurting us, right? Um,
I want
but I
him
just
playing
think
with Russell.
our
Like,
ceiling is much higher with Zeke Naji than with any other option we have. Because in the playoffs,
God, that's
sorry to
terrifying.
DJ, but you have to be switchable, even with these backups. Like you don't want
We're
OKC's
talking about
guard
the ninth
getting
man, though. Like,
yes
realistically, he's going to play probably
spot.
45 minutes
It'd be
in a
matchup
series.
dependent. One, it'd be
Yeah.
matchup dependent. Like I think unless you have multiple bigs to threaten us, or you try to go big to be like screw you, you're not playing, getting away with playing Aaron Gordon and going 8 men. I think Zeke could do that. Um, I've just liked the that he's just kind of gone out there and just played with energy. Like there's sometimes
Yeah. I don't know,
like I
man.
think that's all his role needs to be. And so for him to show me success within what your role is on a deep playoff run,
Do you want to know
that
what
gives
he's
me
averaging
A
points
little
for
bit
the
more.
season.
What?
2.6.
Yeah, I mean, that's not shocking to me. He was as bad as he could be at the start of the season. I mean, he had 14 last night. I think he had 11 the night before. He's had some good games. And I just think to me, it's defensive wise. You can if you're putting him out there as your ninth, you can put together a pretty dirty defensive team if you have him and Aaron Gordon back there. And then you let him run with Murray and set some picks, run around, that kind of stuff.
I
just
want him
think there's
playing
work.
with Russ.
Yeah.
Because Russ will give him some dunks.
Huge oops.
Yeah. So, and Russ will be positive with him. I think Russ is learning everybody on the team really well right now. And he interacts with everybody completely differently. So, I don't know, man. It's fine that we're talking about Zeke Naji as the ninth man on the Nuggets. Like, that's okay. And I think we can win a championship with Zeke Naji being our ninth man because Nikola Jokic is that good. But it doesn't feel good.
It doesn't feel good, but I think so often we forget what it felt like with some of the bench guys before the championship run. Like, Jeff Green was not Mr. Consistency out there, right? Like, we had depth issues. Like, we were getting murdered in the non-Jokic minutes heading into the playoffs, worse than we are this year. And, people weren't taking into account the fact that we're just not going to play the bench as much, and we're definitely not playing our backup big. But to me, I think the Zeke Naji thing is encouraging. One is a minutes eater for this team as they head down the stretch. We saw the toll the season took on him last year. And then two, I think he's an energy guy, and he's another guy that obviously he's not like a knockdown shooter or anything like that, but he's shown the ability to hit a spot up three. And if you're telling me, there's a Memphis series or something, and he's in Ball Arena and he sees the first two go down, that we couldn't say like, oh my God, Zeke Naji had 13. Of course the Nuggets won. He completely changed the energy in the building. He was, because that guy, he goes crazy when he does anything good. Him and Russ, they might have to stop the game for minutes at a time so they can finish celebrating. Like full timeout, they'll never come to the huddle, just celebrate the whole time. So I do think I like his energy, and I like kind of what that is. I think we're kind of getting into the ceiling of the team. You're kind of talking about it, like, can they win a championship? So I guess let's go into it first here. What seed do you think they're going to be?
Hold on,
when it's all said and done.
Sorry, one thing before. I just was looking it up. I went back and looked at the rotation that we had for the championship run, and it's 8 guys. So Jokic, Murray, Porter, Gordon, Brown, Pope, Jeff Green, Christian Brown. Those 8 guys all played in. Christian Brown didn't play in one game for some reason, but all of them played in all 20 of those playoff games.
Christian was lost in that Lakers series. Like, people forget that because he came back and had some great games in the Heat, especially on the road, but it was getting unplayable out there.
But then everybody else is single digits. Nobody even played in more than 6 games. Reggie Jackson played in 6 games. So we're fine. Like, to your point, like, I do think Reggie Jackson, like, if we're trading Reggie Jackson, Zeke played in 5 games. And didn't play very well, but he played in 5 games. At least, like, he wasn't good offensively. But again, we don't really need him to be, especially in the playoffs. So if the defensive stuff sticks, we know that Malone will play him. It's the biggest thing that's been the thorn in his side. All right, now I'll answer your question about what seed I think we're going to be. I think we're going to get the 2. I feel actually pretty confident about it. I just am not sure that I don't trust the Grizzlies. They've already had a sort of rough injury situation. And then you look at everybody else in that sort of realm. So you've got the Rockets, the Lakers, the Clippers, the Wolves, the Mavericks, the Kings, the Warriors. Like, I could see them going on little runs, but at this point we've got a 3-game lead over the Lakers. Like, I think we're going on a run. We've won 8 games in a row, like, I think this team I think we have the potential to be looking very strong heading into the playoffs and be closing out the season on a very high note. And I think that the Grizzlies are sort of, I feel like the year that we won the championship, it was like the Kings or something, were the team that were up there in the standings, and everybody was like, "Whoa, they're sort of ahead of schedule. Wow, that's crazy." And the Grizzlies aren't ahead of schedule. They should have been here, except Ja wouldn't stop showing guns on IG Live and going to Shotgun Willie's and making a stripper's night. I see them faltering a little bit, and I'm not even saying that I think they'll probably be the 3 seed, honestly, but I think the Nuggets will overtake them. And I think that the race between the Nuggets and the Thunder could get closer than, like, I don't think there's no way we catch them, but I could see that being 3 games at the end of and which matters because currently, if you just look at win-loss record, we're only 3 games behind the Celtics, and we're tied with the Knicks. And the higher win total gets home court in a potential finals. So you also got to be paying attention to that, especially as we get down the stretch here.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have the we have the third hardest strength of schedule left, and Memphis has 4th. The Lakers have 6th, so at least we're all around there. Oklahoma City has 13th. And to be clear, this site that I'm using, it's Tankathon. It's literally just looking at what's the average winning percentage of your opponents, right? It doesn't necessarily take into account back-to-backs or, and obviously can't take into account if a team, if we get to play the Grizzlies and Ja's ankle's hurt, right? Or if they get to play us and Murray's resting, right? Like, it's harder in the NBA to like predict these kind of things.
Yeah.
But for what it's worth, that's kind of where we're at. I don't think, if you mean like sweating by like gets within 4 games and people are like, well, they still have 2 to play, like maybe there, but I don't think
I think that they would have to be resting somebody. Chet took like 5 terrifying falls. I don't know if you were watching that game tonight, but he's back, and oh my god, he hit the floor 4 times where I was like, I don't know if he's gonna get back up from that. And he's just so small. So they seem, they're rolling. I think we could beat them in a playoff series, but in the regular season, I think they're pretty untouchable right now in the West.
It's boring to say, but I agree with you. I think we're gonna end up as the 2. I just, Memphis is an intriguing team to me, as far as what they look like, but I just can't get out of my head the last time we saw him healthy against Golden State, and they just like couldn't score enough. Like, all right, so we're going in as a 2 seed. We'll assume we're playing someone from the back half of the West. Who knows what that's going to be?
Yeah, it's a
The West is
nightmare
so
back
deep
there.
that it's so stupid. Like, you could be the number 1 seed and be like, you get Wemby and De'Aaron Fox. You're like, I mean,
Thanks. Honestly, though,
okay.
they're
Like,
3.5 games back of the Warriors. Like, that's crazy. The Spurs are 3.5, and that's to get into the play-in. The
yeah,
Warriors are the 10 seed
yeah.
currently, as it stands right now.
Yeah. You could be the 1 seed and play Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, and Draymond Green.
Yoinks.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
If you're the Thunder, that is your literal nightmare.
Oh my god,
Draymond Green against those guys in the playoff series.
It'd be unreal. Yeah, that'd be bad. So
he'd break Chet Holmgren. Somebody would have to petition the league to let Chet wear a bubble suit or something just to protect him from Draymond.
Yeah. And Jimmy probably. Okay, so I guess then the next question is kind of a 2-parter. First part is, like, are the Nuggets better or worse than you thought they'd be? Like, beginning of the season, like what it looks like. And then the second part is, how far do you think they are going to go? Like, is this a Western Conference Finals team? Is this a second round exit team? Is this a championship team? What's kind of your take on that?
I think they've been I think this is pretty much what I expected of them at the beginning of the year. I would say about 15 games in, I was like, I don't know if this is going to come together like we want it to. And so, given that, it feels great to be sitting where we are right now. Like, given, 20 games ago, I felt sort of like shit. This feels pretty good. But, yeah, I think it falls in line with the expectation. I thought that the Thunder were going to be really good. I didn't necessarily predict this from the Grizzlies, which just maybe explains some of my skepticism now. But, yeah, like 2 seed. And in terms of their ceiling, like, I think that I think this is a Western Conference Finals team, assuming we don't have to play it. I think the Thunder are a real problem, and it's not a problem we can't solve, but against everybody else, it's just the Jokic confidence factor. The Thunder are the only team where I'm like, Jokic may not be able to make up the difference in talent at every single position, basically, other than center. And I'm not positive that we could get through that. But they're really the only team right now that I look at and I'm like, oh, I don't know if Jokic could solve that riddle with the talent around him. And then if we got, I guess just to finish it, if we got somehow to the finals, I think we can win. I think the Celtics sort of have Nugget syndrome of last year. Like, I don't think they're going to make the finals. And I'm not scared of anybody else in the East. So come at me with that Cavs bullshit.
I'd love to see the Cavs to be clear in the finals. I would not love to see the Knicks.
Yeah, they can shove it too, man. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. We'll see. First of all, I think you highlighted the Nuggets season really well in terms of it's not like Nuggets fans were coming into the season and being like, oh man, we lost KCP. Maybe we'll be an 8 seed. Like, everyone still thought we were going to be really good at the beginning of the season. And then the beginning of the season was so atrocious that like you recalibrated your expectations. So it feels like they've exceeded expectations now, but it's not like, to your point, everyone thought they were going to be a top 4 team, even people who were like, this is a step back, or this will be, I think this is about right. For me, I still think this is a second round exit team. Um, I just think that a lot of the ways that we create some of our points aren't going to be available in the playoffs. Like Christian Brown is just not going to be able to out effort people and like just be like, I care more on a Tuesday night than you
He
do, so
kind
I'm going to
of
run.
did in that run to the finals, though.
I mean, he had some good moments, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like right now, he's like a consistent 18 point a game scorer. Like I don't think we should count on that from him in the playoffs. I just think I have real questions about. Well, it's been cool to get to rest guys and do this. This stretch run is going to be real interesting to me because I need to see us like hammer down someone who's at least decent. And I don't mean like hammer down offensively from where it's like, hey, all those open shots Jokic gets people, they just went down tonight. We scored 150 on the Thunder. Like we could do that, right? But I'm talking more about like there were some games in that championship run when you saw the Nuggets try on defense and you saw Jokic try, and you were like, hey, I don't think we're bad at defense.
Yeah.
Like,
No, that's a
we're
great
not
point.
the fucking greatest defensive team of all time, but we're really good on offense. And I think the bar is the same for this year's team as far as like, if anything, I think the bar is probably a little lower of how good the defense needs to be. But you've got to be respectable on that end, and
There,
you've got to show that against real teams.
you're right that there hasn't been a full game like that, but not to keep bringing up Russell Westbrook, but he can bring that where he just like, he's not a great off ball defender, as we've talked about on the podcast, but he can just will himself to care a lot and be very effective on the defensive end and bring a lot of energy to the team where that effort is sort of contagious and it gets that going. So I hope that's a great point, and I hope that we do see that game because those were fun markers where it was like, oh my god, this team has not scored in like 4 minutes.
Yeah. It's the runs, right? Like it's the like you would be sitting right with the Nuggets and he'd be like, man, we're playing our ass off. And then they'd just be like, we're gonna try a little bit harder, and all of a sudden it'd be 20-0 run. And he'd just be like, well, see you later, boys. Good talking with you. And it doesn't feel like we can string together not even enough stops. Like sometimes it's enough rebounds.
Yeah.
Like to where I'm just like, Jesus Christ, we're giving up 4 offensive rebounds to Donovan Clingan. Like, it's some of those things. However, if you'd have told me after watching the first part of the season that this was going to be the most enjoyable offense in the NBA to watch on a night-to-night basis, I would have laughed you out of Ball Arena because it was brutal. And so to build kind of the chemistry and get back to the way that we're playing, because I think a lot of the too much is being made of like athletic deficiencies on the Nuggets. I think it's more of a trust thing. And it's because so much of it in the NBA is like, do I think this guy has any chance to stop this guy, or do I need to cheat over? Right. And even taking an extra step can be like, oh, you're not going to get back to your 3-point shooter, right? Like we need to get a hand on the ball or make this pass take a little longer than it normally would. Otherwise, this guy is stepping into a 3 and he's shooting it basically open. And it feels like sometimes the Nuggets have just had like overhelping or like just not confident that like, hey, we're switching everything, but this guy might forget. I'm going to stay up here. Like it feels like there's some trust things that have been fixed on the offensive end, and on the defensive end, maybe can follow here over these last 27 games that they have you left to play. So I think that can be a positive thing, I guess.
Yeah, I agree.
So right now I think I would say second round. If to your point though, if you told me this team was in the Western Conference Final or that this team was an NBA champion, I wouldn't be like shocked. I also wouldn't be shocked if you told me that we lost to Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry in the playoffs.
I was going to say it's super matchup dependent in that second round. Like there are definitely teams that I think that'll be close series, but to me, I mean, I don't know how many times I have to say this on a podcast leading into playoff basketball, but sometimes it just boils down to who is the best player on the floor. And there aren't series in the Western Conference where the answer is not Nikola Jokic. So
right.
that fills me with confidence that cannot be dissuaded even by the fact that we spent 15 minutes talking about Zeke Naji.
Free Zeke Naji, number one. How dare you? Last thing here. We got 46 minutes deep in a podcast, and we haven't really talked about a guy who scored 55 points last night. I guess I probably should have worked it in with the Zeke Naji when we were talking about how real is that. How real do you feel like this is from Jamal Murray? His points are way up in the past month and a half, basically. He's not looking – you talk about someone who looked terrible defensively. He's back to being like slightly above average as a defender and can be an offensive threat and be a plus, especially with those bench units. Like he's been making those bleed a lot less points. How real do you think this is? How much of it is, do you think, weak competition or something like that? Are you buying this? You felt like you were like, you'll buy Zeke Naji as the ninth option, but you're not buying maybe some stretches of how good he's looked. Yeah. Where do you come down on the Murray thing?
I mean, I'm buying. I think he's in much better shape. I think he probably got pissed off around All-Star break that, again, he's not an All-Star and he didn't deserve to be, so he shouldn't be that upset. But I think that realization, I think that does mean something to him, as stupid as that probably is, but I think it does mean something to him. And he's an NBA champion, so like the fact that you're not an All-Star, like, yeah, I guess, but play better.
Well, beyond an NBA champion, like, he's not Ish Smith NBA champion. He's the second best player. Like very important reason.
Crucial to that.
The finals. Yeah.
Crucial, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that he's in much better shape. I think he's moving much better. I think that it's the first time that he's looked like, I'm not going to say the words that he doesn't like people to say, but it's the first time that he's looked like the player that he was when we won the championship, where he's getting to that mid-range game and he's getting separation on his step back and he's being able to pull up in transition, and he looks more comfortable playing basketball right now than he's looked in like a year and a half. So eye test wise, like, I'm buying it, and I'm going to trust that Jamal Murray is very good at basketball because I've seen that with my own two eyes too many times to not believe it. And I hope that I'm right because he doesn't have to score 55, but I mean, his last 10 games, he's been averaging 25. Yeah, if he can do that, that is great. And he's been, to your point about making the guard smarter. Like, I think he's been a better facilitator lately. And I think it's coming with him being more comfortable on getting to his offensive game, because he can just decide, like, you know what,
Yeah.
I feel great right now. Like, I'm just going to take this little, like, I'm going to call my own number. We're going to get me to the post. I'm going to back this guy down. I'm going to get to my fadeaway. Like, he was doing that last night, like calling the screen over and being like, no, I'm going to just take him in the corner. Like, and it's really hard to stop Jamal Murray in that little post action. So
Yeah, it's
if
pretty
he's
solid.
looking like that, it's real, I think.
The only thing that you didn't mention that I wanted to highlight as, to me, a pretty big barometer of Jamal Murray being Jamal Murray is his finishing ability. Like, he's had some gnarly finishes, and this is a guy who's bricking layups, like, or
Dude,
like
two
little forward.
360s in the last 2 games.
And I
They
think
were
that's
filthy.
confidence in the leg. I think that's feeling stronger, to your point, feeling better about everything. I think that all matters. And so, to me, I'm buying that he's um, a a good player for us, and I think we won't be blindsided by teams blitzing him in the playoffs like the Wolves did to try to suck his energy out, one, and like two, he was just bothered by it. I think we've just been like, okay, we're gonna let Jokic or Aaron Gordon or whoever, if you want to press everybody, that's fine, but like, you're gonna have to do that to keep ball pressure on. We're just not gonna make Jamal Murray dribble through that. So I think that's something they've downloaded that could also help them. And like, I'm thinking like Rockets, Memphis, they have guards that could absolutely, I mean, Oklahoma City, if you're in the Western Conference Finals, like, they have people who could hound him 94 feet, right?
Multiple.
And for whatever reason, as good as he is, he does not enjoy that at all. And so I think there's something to that. The other thing that I do feel like I wanted to hit on is, I think that the fact that this team now has so many reps helps them, especially with what the back half of the bracket of the West is going to look like. Like, it'd be pretty easy, Memphis, for your like second real playoff run, to see Draymond Green, Steph Curry, and Jimmy Butler and poop your pants a little bit. Like, that'd be normal. Oklahoma City, if you have 20-year-old Chet Holmgren and all of a sudden Anthony Edwards is cussing you out and calling you every word he knows, like, might be normal, right? To fall apart a little bit there. And I just think the Nuggets, for better or worse, don't get too high, don't get too low about stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, they're just like, yes, you are good. We're good too. We'll play basketball.
We will
And so I
play
don't see
better
them.
next game, hopefully.
Yeah, like, I don't see them having some sort of like aura loss, right? Which is what I think happened the first time they played the Blazers in the playoffs, right? Like, they weren't ready yet for that aura of Dame and CJ and the big shots and what those momentum swings look like. And now,
Yeah.
everyone who's going to play in that 8-man has been through it in something besides Julian Strother.
And that boils down to the best player on your team being the most comfortable in those situations that maybe anybody has ever been in NBA basketball. Like, that guy does not get rattled by shit going down the. He knows what to do. He knows what. It may not completely get executed, but it actually sort of reminds me of like those Sakic, Forsberg, Avs teams. Like, they'd be getting or like down or whatever, or like anytime they came on the ice, you felt like it was going to get executed and they were probably going to score a goal. That's sort of what Jokic feels like right now. It's almost inevitability. So we haven't really probably showered enough praise on him in this podcast, despite us every conversation sort of revolving around him. But like, this season has been unbelievable, and I really hope that if we get to the 2 seed, he ends up winning the MVP. Because this is a historic, just overall NBA season ever. Like, nothing has really been done like this before. So I hope he gets recognized for it.
Yeah. I hope he doesn't, because as Jokic said, when I don't win MVP, we win championship.
Well, I want him to win them all.
The old triple crown out there.
Yeah.
The elusive triple crown. Yeah, I mean, he's pretty unreal. All right, I think that's where we are. Go Nuggets. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Give us 5 stars. Ryan, anything else to add on here at the end?
Nah, I got nothing.
All right, then.
Go USA Hockey.
Go. I think we're going to get dog walk.
Yeah, but
yeah, go USA Hockey.
It doesn't mean we can't cheer. They were booing the national anthem in Canada today. I think we should start doing that in the States. No, I was inspired.
Yeah.
I wasn't upset.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. All right. Well, we will talk to you next week, and we hope you will tell a friend to tell a friend. As we get into this stretch run of the Nuggets and Avs season, it's the good teams are playing in Colorado. So you gotta get on the local podcast circuit. Now's the time to get in there and get some joy in your ears as you get to hear about these wonderful Avs and Nuggets victories. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Blucifer Brothers is a Crab Shell Media podcast.